Hi Chris, how are you?
Good morning, Rod. Yeah, here we are. Happy Christmas to you. And here we are on the 28th of December. I had to think for a minute what month we're in. And it's still 25, but only just for a few days.
I don't know what day it is anymore. You know what it's like over the festive season. It could be a weekend, it could be a middle of the week. I have no idea.
Yeah, the days do kind of all blur. And weather-wise, bit wintry, I guess. A little bit cold here.
Yeah, it's okay. It's overcast. It was beautiful Christmas Day, I must say. The sun was splitting the rocks.
Yeah, cold here, but yeah, we did have some beautiful sunny. So I'm all right with the nice winter's day. As long as I've got some layers on, I'm good.
Very nice too. Should we dive straight in?
Let's do it.
So, probably from the top is worth saying, slightly different show. We're going to have not a lot of news or a lot of follow-up because there isn't much. And then we're going to do something different for the main show. We're going to do a tier list, yeah?
Yeah, and you're going to explain it to me just to make sure I understand it.
All right, that's fine.
And our listeners too.
Well, I've got more of the listeners than you, Chris. You know what's going on, totally.
Yeah, okay.
you don't look convinced. Anyway, let's do some follow-up. So first up, our perennial story. I'll be interested to see how this goes into 2026, frankly. Apple is going to allow alternative app stores and more iOS in Brazil by April. So we've talked about this a little bit on the podcast, that Brazil were obviously making moves in the same direction as the EU, and now it's a thing that's actually going to happen from Brazil.
But this is great, right? So Brazil, EU, Japan, and South Korea are going to get this. Fantastic. Apple, just get on and do it already. Like, this death by 1,000 cuts is just ridiculous. At what point are they going to go, right, you want alternative app stores, we're just going to do it everywhere because we're fed up of fighting country by country for this idiotic thing to stop it? And I'd love to see some stats. Has it actually made a material difference? Like, how many people, after 15 years of using an iPhone, are going to go and seek out alternative ways to get apps? I just can't see it. I know some people will, but I would imagine, the number of users compared to the number of users that won't, it's going to be such a drop in the ocean. And Apple, get better.
I mean, I agree. It's the same with the payment methods. Most developers will continue to choose Apple Pay rather than other things to gather the money for their apps because it's just easier. Yep. It's just built in. You do it. You don't need to come up. And I'm sure Stripe and other alternative payment systems will be very good and probably are in the EU and in America. I think it's going to happen too. But it's the path of least resistance to just use the platform provider's thing. All they need to do is it's not even the illusion, give the actuality of the ability for people to have choice. I don't think it's broken the EU store. I wonder how many EU users, like you say, have actually chosen to install Alt Store.
I really don't think it's going to be very many, and I hate the way they're fighting it country by country, and our country's not on the list yet.
No, it makes them look extremely petty, and I think that it's a real I don't like the word optics problem for them, the way that they're beginning to be perceived as sort of money grubbing. And they've already got all the money. They don't need to be money grubbing. They should just get on.
Yeah, and it just looks bad against all their values of, they're trying to do the right thing for the consumer, and it just goes against all of that. And I think if they just went, right, done, we're going to enact this global policy and go back to how the App Store used to be, one App Store to rule them all. And I get there will be some slight nuances, like per country, but this just seems ridiculous.
No, I mean, your phone's a computer at the end of the day. Your computer has always been able to install software from anywhere. We've said before, put up the flashing signs, here be dragons, you enter at your own risk. Fine. It obviously hasn't caused the massive piracy in the EU. It's probably not going to cause a massive piracy in Brazil. If people want to do things with their devices, let them. Don't be Microsoft, Apple. Let them.
Agreed. And Microsoft actually look the better people here, don't they? Because they're doing more stores and they've been a lot more open about it. And it's just crazy that we're now in that world.
Yeah, I think the history of the PC has shown that you can't be that. And Steam wouldn't exist, for example, on the PC unless Microsoft were that liberal. They could kill Steam very, very quickly, I'm sure, if they chose to with their own. But they haven't. It's interesting, Steam, with their sort of initiatives around SteamOS and all the new devices that are coming next year in the Steam Deck, are obviously quite cautious about that ever happening to them. And you do see a lot of pushback on Microsoft these days. Not necessarily for app stores, more for their overall, you will be embedded into our OneDrive, Office 365, Copilot, onboarding stuff. And advertising. It's interesting, I had to help somebody out with a computer this week, and their mother, it's their mother's computer, had opted into to Outlook email because she was pushed into it, was using Edge, she didn't want to use Edge because she was pushed into it, had signed up for a OneDrive account, didn't want a OneDrive account, never used it because she was pushed into it. And you're like, that's preying on people who know no better. And it's not as bad for Apple yet with this sort of restrictions that they're putting on, but it feels quite. It's in the same ballpark, isn't it?
Yeah, and it feels like Microsoft. Look, Microsoft, you've won the corporate space. That's where you're at. Apple, you're the consumer space. Steam OS, right? You're now going to have the gaming space, which will probably link nicely to an article we've got coming up in games.
Yeah, we do. So this is well done, Brazil, and well done all those other nations holding Apple's fingers to the fire on this, because I think it's got to be done. The EU are doing a terrific job with this kind of stuff. We're going to speak about them more in a minute, but I think this is great. Good for Brazil.
Agreed. And come on in UK, let's get it too.
Absolutely. Someone else that's getting it is that Europe is getting exactly what we're talking about before, their dependency on the US providers, particularly cloud services. But they've looked around and realised that if there's a slightly bad actor in the White House or that is having issues with the way things that are done, most of the tech that governments use are Microsoft related. And in the long run, that's probably not healthy. So this is a story from the Register from last week, 22nd December, about Europe getting a bit more serious about digital sovereignty. Because, again, we've talked about this before, it's really important for some agencies of government, police, healthcare providers, that their data stays in their country, and the laws say so. However, if you make use of your database on various CDNs, although there is a claim that it can be for digital, it will remain within your country. If that US company is served with a legal notice, I forget the actual thing, it's the Cloud Act, then the US company has to release the data to the United States government. So if you're the Netherlands and you're using Microsoft Azure to store all your databases and things like that, the US government can serve Microsoft with a Cloud Act notification, and all that data will have to be opened up in America. And that's untenable, really.
Yeah, that's not good, is it? And this is, I think I've said it before, we've gone through that era where we were very international, and now we're starting to go a bit more regional, and it feels like this is a continuation of that. And yeah, it's all a bit worrying, isn't it? I think how reliant we are on very few organisations that are largely American tech companies. American tech has ruled the way.
It really has. And I mean, it's interesting how hard back on things like Chinese companies, European companies. They want to maintain that dominance. It really is an empire. And the government in America see this too. It's not just Apple that pushed back on splintering of the App Store. Microsoft did the same thing. Oh, we'll double down on your sovereignty. We'll engage with your own, local providers to do this, and then they put themselves in a dominant position again. It's really quite, I don't know. It's quite medieval. It's piratical almost.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you there. We have gone backwards in many ways.
We have, I think, and as with our own personal tech in the last year, I think you and I have both become a little more aware of what we install and where it's going. Me probably a little more than you, but
you're well ahead of me.
I think it's understandable for people. If you explain this to the average member of the public, actually, all data on NHS servers is maintained by an American entity, which is all of them, be it Google or be it Microsoft. The impact of that, should a Cloud Act thing be served against you, could be your data is resolvable by the United States government. Wow.
Yeah, wow. That is quite a statement, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. So this isn't strictly follow-up because it's sort of news. We haven't reported on it before. You reported on it before we recorded last week, actually. And that's why it's in follow-up. Apparently macOS Tahoe has a persistent screen flickering issue.
Yes, this is an odd one. And just back to your point, it possibly is follow-up because it's just that software quality problem that is perennial at the moment, where I think Apple are too aggressive in their releases. Yeah, I had this the other week. I plugged my monitor in because sometimes I switch my studio display between my MacBook Air and my Mac Mini, and the screen started to flicker on. I hadn't seen it before. And you said, just unplug it and plug it back in again. And that did fix it for me. And I've only had it the once. But apparently, yeah, there's a bug in Tahoe where this can just happen all the time. Which isn't great, is it? Like, it's Apple's very expensive monitor that is overpriced, but is beautiful. And, with their hardware, their software, why is this happening? Like, this is something they should control. And they probably have the highest concentration of studio displays in their office than anybody, because obviously they're going to use their own stuff, are they? They're not going to have a Dell monitor if they make their own.
I mean, it's interesting because I have a studio display in the office, not here in the house, and it was one of those things I imagined. I just figured it was some sort of flaw or something that I did see flickering, but discounted it. And it wasn't until you said my screen's flickering. I thought, hang on, I get that on my studio display in the office, not all the time, because I unplug it and plug it in quite a lot. So But yeah, I've never seen it with this display, which is a bank 4K display. So it's, as you say, Apple's software, Apple's hardware on both ends, and with the cable that comes with the Studio Display. Because I think there is only one cable comes with the Studio Display. So
Yeah, you can swap the cable, like the Thunderbolt cable, but I'm using their one, and obviously it's got the welded in power socket. But no, I'm using their cable. So yeah, it's a little bit worrying.
yeah,
Being honest.
so hopefully we'll see an update for this. But the company certainly hasn't acknowledged the problem.
Why would they?
Yeah, they rarely do they? Fair point. Fair point.
Should we do the news?
Let's do the news. So do you want to tell us about proximity pairing in the EU?
Yeah, so there's a bit of a theme, I think, with so I had to think of the numbers then. iOS 26.3. I did have to explain to somebody over Christmas. They're like, "Whoa, why on version 26? I only got version 18 on my current phone." And I had to explain, "Oh, look, they're now moving to years." Obviously, it hadn't permeated to him. They're doing quite a few things in iOS 26.3 for just the EU, and this is a little link to the App Store story that we've just had. They're doing things to meet the EU, but really are things they should be doing for everybody. And again, it feels like this might be death by a thousand cuts. And the two things they're doing are proximity pairing and notification forwarding. So this is where devices like, you in the picture you've got there, you'll be able to put your Sony's next to the iOS device and it will pop up, like the little sheet you get when you do your AirPods. And then you'll be able to pair like with one tap and have that niceness that Apple bring to when they're using their hardware accessories with their hardware and their OS. So they're going to bring that to third parties, which is great. Like, this is really, really good. But why is it just in the EU?
Yeah, I mean, you could say that of a few things. I mean, now Brazil have got app stores elsewhere as well. It's not, maybe it'll push out to other nations as well. But no, I think it should be a very straightforward thing that all Bluetooth devices should advertise their presence. Your phone, whatever your phone, should say, "Hey, I can see a thing. Is this what you want to pair to?" And it should just get on and do it. I mean, it's very elegant the way Apple do it. If you buy new AirPods or something like that, you open it up, you get a little animation, you click pair, and off you go.
It's cool.
It's really cool. But I'm sure Sony would love that. I'm sure Huawei or AKG or any of the other makers of things would love that too.
The thing I'd really like them to open up for the headphones is how you could sync the Bluetooth profile between your devices, so that when you have your AirPods on your phone, they appear on your Mac, they appear on your Apple TV. I've got a pair of Sony's on now. I would love that sync to me, because sometimes I've got my over the what do you call these bone conduction headphones that I'm holding up, some Shocks ones, but they're only linked to my two iOS devices. I'd like them, sometimes I want to use them on my Mac, and then you've got to pair them and stuff. And they do support two devices, but if Apple did the whole iCloud thing, it'd be amazing. And look, the final thing they're bringing is, if you scroll down a little bit, they're bringing notification forwarding, which is where you'll be able to have other devices other than the Apple Watch that will get notifications sent to it. Again, only in the EU, and this should be done everywhere. Like, Apple, come on, I kind of understand why they're doing it from their standpoint, but it's not the right thing to do, is it? They're trying to lock you into the Apple
it's
Watch.
rubbish, isn't it? You think that new Pebble Watch is coming out, that should be able to receive all the same notifications that if you choose to wear an Android watch or a Garmin, that kind of posting to your wrist shouldn't be the exclusive domain of the Apple Watch. It makes no sense. It's just a Bluetooth notification or alert notification that can be spread out across the system. There should be a generic API that would allow you to do this kind of thing. And you've got to think the Apple of the early 2000s would be extremely inclusive to get as many devices onto their platform as possible, so that ecosystem would grow, as opposed to restricting it and building the empire.
Yeah, they should do the right thing, and also have a bit of competition. It will probably do you some good, especially with the watch, because the watch hasn't really... Like, I stopped wearing a watch, 3 years ago? And I reckon if I went and put one on now, it's probably not really any... It's not really...
The watch is so dull. And to your point, when I had to reset all my devices in Finland last year, for whatever reason, my ring syncing thing, where it goes, keep going, take another 50 steps and you'll close the ring, has never worked since. So whether I close them or not makes no difference to me anymore, because it's not giving any... So even Apple on their own devices are unable to maintain that sort of consistency of notifications and alerting and all the rest of it. I don't remember switching anything else off. Certainly all my other alerts work on there. So it's just a meh device, and I'm with you. I think if I had to stop wearing an Apple Watch tomorrow, I wouldn't miss it at this stage.
I've not missed it at all, and have absolutely zero desire to go back to it, to be honest with you. Like, it's just not a thing I'm missing in my life, one iota. which I never thought I'd say. 'Cause I love
well,
tech.
maybe we'll find some new tech to play with in the new year. But somebody who's going to have to find something is Apple. They're going to have to find some more money for a fine. In Italy, they've been hit with $115 million, not the most amount of money for a fine that Apple's received recently, about app tracking transparency. And apparently, the Italian Competition Authority has said that app tracking transparency is a privacy policy Apple introduced in 2021, which forced third-party developers to seek consent twice. Apparently, this was extremely burdensome from developers. I got to think Facebook are behind this in some way. And therefore, for the pain and suffering suffered, Apple must pay this fine within Italy. Interesting, this one. I thought a bit different from what we've seen recently.
Yeah, it's a bit different, and it's not in Apple's world. This is not a huge deal, is it? Feels like, feels like they're just gonna have to pay this. Obviously, they're going to be unhappy about it, but again, it can't be a shock to Apple. I can't imagine how many fines they are fighting on a daily basis. Like their legal team, it must be. Insane.
I mean, it's interesting they say things like Apple may have benefited from the ATT restrictive in the form of higher commissions collected from developers through the App Store. I'm shocked that Apple would ever be seeking higher, commissions from developers through the App Store. I'd find that extremely surprising.
Yeah, I would agree with you there.
But what we have here is countries holding Apple's fingers to the fire, not individuals, not developers. Well, through the backdoor developers, but it's having to go to a national level to have any sort of moderation of the country's practices and policies. And again, to your point earlier, Apple used to be about the user first, developer second, Apple themselves third. This is user is well to the fore. Developers are to the rear. Developers are well to the rear. It's just Apple, and it's getting a bit grating.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's very, very grating.
Yeah. Something else that's probably grating Spotify is that apparently the world's largest shadow library, somebody or a group, has downloaded 300 terabytes of Spotify's most streamed songs, and they say they're doing this to archive all this media because it just belongs in the hand of a couple of big media giants at this point. They're not wrong about that. This doesn't feel entirely legal.
Yeah, I was reading this, and it's Anna's archive, and I've not heard. I don't know what this is, so it's not a term I've ever heard before. So I'm assuming it's a big BitTorrent site. I read this article, and I was like, right. So they've gone and got the list of all the top streamed songs, which is 250 million tracks or something, which is about 37% of all the songs on Spotify. So it looks like Spotify got all these songs, but basically 37% of the songs they host are the ones that are listened to 99% of the time. So I'm just trying to get my numbers in the right way around. And so they've downloaded them all, and they've got all the metadata, and they've released the metadata. But what they haven't done yet is release the songs, but they're going to release the songs onto some form of BitTorrent site, and then people will be able to download them, and it will spread. I kind of get the prosperity thing, but this should be something they should be campaigning Spotify to do, or the music labels to do, surely. I don't know, I found this one really bizarre. It sounds like they're trying to do the right thing, but not really doing the right thing at all.
Yeah, I mean, the very first line in the article about Anna's archive is increasingly funded by AI developers just makes it sound to me like they're trying to create an easier step for designers of LLM to be able to get hold of this stuff. Yeah,
and that is it, isn't it? The AI firms conglomerates are going to go after all this data. It's just, I don't know, this does not feel like the right thing at all to me. I just found the article completely baffling, but I just don't think it's the right way of going around archiving this. It's just the way of giving it away for free. That feels all we're trying to do there, but we're trying to legitimize it.
Well, I know, but the thing is, we've seen Meta do this, and they pay. If there's a fine, they pay the fine. They've already got the data. They've trained their LLM. I'm all for preserving digital things. Like I often think about all the games and things from the 70s and 80s that we may never see again, or we may never have seen again, unless people had created these archives of them. So maybe there should be some sort of statute of limitations or something on 30 years have passed. Make sure you keep them. And these things, I mean, it should be patent law, really, shouldn't it? These things should then become public access, as Mickey Mouse did. We talked about that last year at Christmas time. So, to me, that's quite important. Otherwise, really important historical material may go away. don't think this is the way to do it. But
no, I get this sentiment, but I think it feels like they're trying to legitimize their actions here. I don't think it's right at all.
Yeah, I'm with you. Should we do a car corner?
Have we got anything in car corner?
I've got one thing to talk about in car corner. I've been playing a little bit with my Android phone this week, which unfortunately I managed to drop and crack. It's the first phone I've smashed in a very long time. I cracked the glass back on my Pixel 7.
So frustrating,
it's fine,
though, isn't it?
It's just right in the corner. It's quite annoying. However, I was messing around with it because I was curious to see what Android Auto looked like, because I haven't used it in years, frankly, because my previous Apple CarPlay capable headsets couldn't cope with Android Auto. But the new wireless thing I've fitted to my Mercedes does. And apparently it's really unusual to get an Android Auto one that's wireless. So I'm very pleased that mine works like that. It's pretty good. I gotta say, Android Auto, it's when you're used to Apple CarPlay, it's kind of got a horizontal, is that the right word? The map dominates the middle of the screen. You've got a couple of widgets around the edge of it, but everything's sort of split into one large third, for want of a better word, as your map. There's some control things down the left or right hand side, depending whether you've got a left or right hand drive car, and then the smaller widgets around the edge. Android takes a different approach, where the map is the large vertical space across the top, so you get a lot more map to see with smaller widgets around the edges. And as things like messages come in, you actually see them, you get a notification that rolls in from the top, and they stay persistent in sort of the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. So if you get text message, WhatsApp message, something like that, it reads it to you, should you want it to, but it also keeps it persistent on the screen without overriding the map or anything before you go, and it's different. And actually, I don't know whether it's better than CarPlay. I'm very used to CarPlay in the way that it works, but it's really quite an interesting take on it. I think Apple should take a sideways look at Android Auto for a different paradigm for how they present quite an informationally dense thing that you can only glance at when you're driving. I just thought it was a really interesting thing.
Yeah, I've never used it, I must confess. I love CarPlay a lot, but I wouldn't be opposed to using Android Auto because I'm sure it is just as good. And it's good, it's different, because I think sometimes you end up with this world where everything's exactly the same and it's just made by a different vendor. And I think this is why competition's important, isn't it? Because you can see how others do things, you can do it better. And you can keep each other honest, but sounds good. Fair play for giving it a whirl.
No, I thought it was worth a go, and it is nice to try different things sometimes. And it did make me reflect. Do you remember? You probably never noticed this, but the other maps, particularly Waze, because I was messing around with a lot of them, display your speed as well as the speed limit. They actually display your current speed, and Apple Maps I don't think has ever done it. Google Maps used to do it. I think you can still go into the settings and display your current speed as well as the speed limit. Waze still does. And I really quite like that, because the discrepancy between what your car thinks it's doing and what a satellite thinks you're doing it's often as much as 5 miles an hour. Yeah. So it's just another little thing that... I appreciate you can't spend all your trip looking at the maps and looking at the display, but those sort of little informationally useful things, it's good to have the flexibility to see them.
I often find... I think I've said this before, Waze, very much attention seeking. They want you to confirm you've seen the bus parked on the side of the road in the hard shoulder and things. And I find it quite like, tap me. And I was like, I don't want that. That's not relaxing to me. But I can see, I would imagine that's why Apple don't display the speed, because they know it's not going to say the same as what your car's going to say.
Yeah, but that's quite helpful sometimes, isn't it? You know, if you're thinking, am I doing 70 here? Am I doing 74? Is it overreading or underreading? I mean, most cars, speedos overread, so you're safe should you go past a speed, something like that. But not all. I mean, I've been watching a couple of car reviews recently where some underread, so therefore you're actually going faster than you think you think you are. So if you think you're doing 30 and you're actually doing 34, then you're getting points in your license.
Yeah, that could be bad.
Yeah, so I think it's useful to have that sort of sideways look. And not that the satellite's going to be massively 100% accurate either, but it's nice to have that agreement between them.
Yeah, no, agreed. I do think it is cool. I do like Apple Maps. I like the way it presents. I think it's I like the clean interface, which is what we like from Apple. And one thing I have noticed is their 3D, where you go into a city, you get 3D, you probably see it where you live, 3D buildings. That's actually come out to where I live. So when I'm driving down our high street, now there's a lot more 3D on the map. So it feels like they're doing more and more of that. And they just casually rolled it out kind of thing. It's quite cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting what you said about alerts and notifications for things happening around you. I agree with you. Waze is quite needy. At the same time, I do appreciate it then when you get there's about to be a slowdown because there's an object on the hard shoulder. And Google Maps does that too. And Apple Maps does less of that. I think you can report things in Apple Maps, but people seem less inclined to do so.
Yeah, the report button's hidden. People aren't used to it. I just don't like the way it's like, tell me if you're still there. Tell me if and it's like you got 5 seconds to do it kind of thing. It just feels a bit alien. I think there's a balance to be had.
You don't have to do it. If you ignore it, it just assumes that it's still there. So, you don't. You can ignore those things going forward. Anyway, I quite like it, but I agree with you. There's a balance between everything that's going on and really important things that you need to know about.
Yeah, but my OCD means I've got to tap it to get rid of it.
Well, you could ask your passenger to do it when it's safe to do so.
There is that.
Shall we do some media?
Let's do the media.
Thoughts on Christmas Telly? Did you watch much of it?
So I saw this in here and I thought, I'll add something to it. And then I don't think I've really got anything to add to it, which is a sign, because one thing my children quite like on Christmas Day, we often just put the telly on and just let it roll, which we don't do very often. Like just put normal, in the UK, BBC One on or ITV3 and just let the Christmas stuff flow. And the kids quite like it, but we didn't really watch that much this year. The only thing I did see was Shaun the Sheep Fleece Navidad, fleece as in a sheep's fleece, Navidad, which was like a 7-8 minute short of Shaun the Sheep, which was good Christmas bit of kids entertainment. That's probably the only thing Christmassy I've really seen, if I'm being honest, in the last couple of days.
Yeah, I thought it was really bad. There's been a few reports that I've seen in the media today about it being one of the worst Christmases ever. There was no sort of standout shows for people to go and watch this year, and I think that's true. That I sort of flicked through the Radio Times to see if there was anything on, and I'm with you. Other than some Shaun the Sheep stuff, there really was nothing compelling at all. I thought it was pretty dull. There's
a TV guide in my house. I was against buying one because I say we never look at it, but one got bought and we've not looked at it because there's just not that much on, is there?
No, there isn't. I did watch a couple of things, though, so I think these are probably worth highlighting. The new season of Fallout is back. Fallout is a TV show based on a computer game from Amazon Prime. I watched with my daughter Season 1 last Christmas. It's terrific. Even if you've never played the computer game, I think it's just an extremely well done, humorous, a little bit gory in places, a TV show about a post-apocalyptic world. It does flash back and tell the story of what happened leading up to the apocalypse in the sort of an idealized 50s style America, really. It's just an extremely well done show. The acting is terrific. Walton Goggins and I want to say Ella Purnell, it might be Ella Purnell, who's actually an English actress, though you wouldn't think so from watching her, with Kyle MacLachlan as well. It's a great show. I'd recommend anybody who's got Amazon Prime checks it out. And I think the critics and the audience stick with me on this because both 95%.
That's really high. Like for a TV show, that's really good, isn't it?
It's really good. Did you play the Fallout games?
No, I think I've played like one, but not really. Vaguely remember it. I don't know why I had a go at it. I don't know. You know me, I'll play it when it's not cool anymore.
Yeah, well, it's a Bethesda game, if memory serves. So it's that sort of... oh gosh, my mind's gone completely blank. Skyrim is one of those. Elder Scrolls Oblivion, that kind of stuff. It's that style of RPG game, just in a sort of post-apocalyptic future. They were decent games, solid.
Yeah, they always had a good write-up. I think if you got into that universe, it always felt like they were satisfying games and well made.
Yeah, very good. So I'd recommend that, and if you haven't seen Season 1, it's worth a watch as well. It's very good. Secondly, I don't know if you watched it, Chris, but they had the Taskmaster Champion of Champions. I think this is the 4th round of Champion of Champions they've had. They obviously need 5 champions to have a Champion of Champions, so you can only have them. Having just had Series 20, they were able to do this. So did you watch this?
No, I've not even finished the last series, to be fair. So do need to watch this, I think. Was it good?
It was extremely good. There's a spoiler there now if you're looking at that for who won Champion of Champions, who won Season 20 then. So
I did. That is fine. You kind of know anyway because you see it in the news and stuff. But no, I will get on and watch this at some point. I think I struggle when I'm trying to watch stuff with my kids. I was explaining this to my brother-in-law. Sometimes we start watching things as a family and then the kids' attention span drifts. Whereas I still want to finish watching it, and I think I just have to get on and watch Taskmaster on my own because they've let me down on enough occasions now.
I suspect if you start watching it, they will come and sit with you anyway. But yeah, it was a good Champion of Champions, and we have the usual New Year treat due shortly as well. So there's more Taskmaster coming this Christmas period.
They are on a winner there, aren't they?
Well, I read that they sold out the American dates. They're doing a live American show over a number of states in 19 minutes. So it's obviously taken off in the US as well.
Wow, okay, fair play.
Yeah, fair play. A couple of games?
I've just thought of something.
Yeah.
Christmas Eve, there was a show on called Finding Santa.
Right.
Greg Davis played Santa.
Any good?
It was all right. It had what's the guy called? He called Lenny something.
Oh yeah. I know who you mean. He's in a couple of things with Daisy May Cooper,
Yes.
isn't he? Yeah.
I think it was Finding Father Christmas. Yeah, Finding Father Christmas. And it had one of the guys out at Buckley. What's his name? James Buckley from In-Betweeners in it. So it had quite a good card. So it was Lenny Rush, James Buckley, and Greg Davis was in there. Stephen Fry was in it. Hannah Fry was in it. It was all just, it was really good.
Good. I'll let you put it in the show notes so listeners and viewers can go out and find that. Should we do a couple of games?
Let's do a couple of games.
So, sad news. Vince Zampella died on December 22nd. Vince Zampella was one of the original developers of the Call of Duty franchise. He was responsible for the Titanfall franchise, which are fantastic games, both of them. And most recently was the head of Battlefield Studios and navigated the Battlefield 6 launch as well. So, original Call of Duty studio and Infinity Ward from the Battlefield side. Only 55, died in a car crash. Very sad.
Oh, that's awful, isn't it? Just before Christmas.
Yeah. Quite an odd incident reading about it. There was nobody else was involved in the crash. One of the people in the vehicle was ejected from the vehicle, came out when it hit a concrete barrier. One died and then died shortly afterwards. The passenger that was ejected, I don't know which one was which. And unfortunately, the second passenger died in a fire involving the crash. So not only was it awful, it was horrific. So I feel really sorry for Vince and his family and whoever else was involved in the crash. I don't think there's details on that as well, but a big loss to gaming.
Yeah, it's horrible, isn't it? Oh, really not good.
Yeah, not good, but obviously responsible for some of the biggest games in the world as well, so leaves a legacy behind, and very sad.
Yeah.
And speaking of very sad, apparently, and this was an article in Engadget, that 2025 was the year the Xbox died. So 2 years ago, you and I said the Xbox S was the console everybody should go and buy because of what a tear Microsoft were on. Whereas now, they're really struggling across all gaming platforms, Windows, mobile gaming, and actually in console gaming as well. Struggling to sell them, they don't have exclusives anymore. They've started making Microsoft games for PlayStation. I noticed yesterday on my PS5 that Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 was available. Yeah, Microsoft, it went a bit wrong after that purchase, didn't it?
Yeah, I was surprised by this, but then I looked back on it and I thought, actually, nobody I know is talking about the Xbox. Like, even with my son who's into PlayStation gaming, a few friends have got Xboxes, but nobody seems to you've got to get this. This is the thing to get on the Xbox. And it should have some more exclusive than what it's got. But like you say, Microsoft have gone the other way. And like Flight Sims appeared on the PS5, which I've not tried. I'm not surprised, I think. I don't know. I mean, last year was very flat for gaming, wasn't it? Like Steam, I'm casting my mind back, don't think really released anything. Obviously, they've announced a bunch of stuff at the end of the year. Xbox didn't really do a lot. The PS5 Pro, I think, came out the previous year. Switch 2 obviously came out, but very iterative. You know what I mean? It was just all round. It's just very. There was nothing, no one game, no one console, nothing major last year. Is how it felt to me.
No, I think that's fair, but I mean the bigger point is why would you buy an Xbox when they keep pumping up the monthly Games Pass subscription? You know, when that was cheap, it was a deal, and then you needed an Xbox for that to get lots of games. You don't have anything exclusive on there. PlayStation's, particularly after the Trump tariffs, were probably slightly cheaper than a high-end Xbox. The low-end Xbox, be whatever it was, but a PS5 Slim, or whatever it's called, the one without the media, is going to be there or thereabouts for an Xbox Series X, which is what you need for the high-end 4K gaming and all the rest of it. So that's the better console to pick. And it's got exclusives. And PlayStation Plus isn't a bad deal. You get a couple of games in there, but you don't feel like they're absolutely tearing you a new one like Microsoft do with their £30 per month subscription to get games of which you only play 2 or 3 of. So it's a hard sell, isn't it, to buy an Xbox console when that's the competition, as you say. Or, you know, most gamers probably have more than one console. They've probably got a Nintendo as well, or they've got a gaming PC and they use Steam. So
yeah, and I've always tried very hard not to have lots of subscriptions. Like, I don't mind the Nintendo one. It's like 20 quid. It backs everything up fine. And you get some of the classic consoles to play with, you know, like the Game Boy on your Switch and stuff. And I think that's right. I'm doable with that. And it's one annual payment. Whereas some of these subscriptions start getting a bit costly, don't they? Like, if you have a Netflix or a Disney, and I just get them per month, and that's the world I now live in, because I think it just adds up, and you get complacent with it, and you don't get good value out of it. So I'm surprised. I'm surprised Microsoft have gone from, like you say, us recommending this console to us going, I probably wouldn't rush to get this console because it's cheap up front, but there's that monthly cost is going up and up and up, and we're seeing it with lots of these subscription services. The costs are just going up and up and up exponentially every month.
It's not gaming, but I cancelled my Guardian subscription because they doubled it.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I could understand a 5 or 10% rise, 12% rise, something like that, but I can't understand a 50% rise.
No, it's crazy, isn't it? And I want to get the FT again because I really enjoy reading the FT. I don't know why, but I do like the way they report. But it's just so expensive, so I just buy it every now and again.
We used to get the subscription for the Times and the Financial Times from the university, and the university cancelled it too because it was so expensive. So that's corporate subscriptions they're losing as well as individuals. It's no wonder it's beginning to fail, really, when you've got this kind of... I understand it's a troublesome time, but you can't expect consumers to keep absorbing your Xbox Game Pass, your Netflix rises, your media rises, your Guardian, your Financial Times. It's all too much. And people, as you say, I think people are tired. They've got subscription fatigue.
Yeah, and you just, you get paid and then all your subscriptions come out. You see it with people, and a lot of people sign up, it's just £10 for 6 months, and then they increase it, and you see it all the time. You don't see the total true cost, I guess.
That is a fact. Should we do something different?
Let's do something different.
So, we've never done this before. Other podcasts and YouTubers do this quite a lot. They do tier lists, and the concept of a tier list is that you have from S to F, and it goes S tier is the ultimate, couldn't get better, amazing tier. A tier is a fantastic product. B tier is okay, well, good. C tier is average. D tier is failing, and F tier is absolute rubbish, never go near it. And I thought we might do a couple of these in upcoming things, not just because it's a slow news week, month, year, but just because it's quite a fun thing to do. And I thought for our very first one, why don't we do some computers?
I think it's a good idea, and I think the whole of 25 has been a slow year. So maybe what we should do one year is we could rate 25 tech in a tiered list. That'd be quite an interesting year in review. Like, just pick the top 20 things that have come out this year and rate where we thought they landed.
Well, maybe if we were more organised, we'd have done that this year. But I think this is a good place to start.
I've only just thought of it as we were talking.
Well, you should write a note at the top of the show notes, Chris, so we remember it for next year there, because otherwise we'll forget. Anyway, so while Chris is writing that in the show notes, I will say, so what we've got, and for YouTube viewers, you're obviously going to be able to see this a little bit more clearly than what we're doing on the audio podcast, but we'll try and describe it anyway. So what we have are a bunch of computers, I haven't counted how many, from all the generations, really, going back to sort of the early 80s, right through to more modern day things. It's not every computer ever made, because that would be ridiculous. We've tried to pick a flavour of them for high-end products, low-end products, things in between, things that were historical and may not have their relevance anymore, and we're going to try and rank them into these tiers. So again, S tier is the ultimate, F tier is poo, basically. I think it's fair to say. How do you want to go through these, Chris? Shall I just grab from the left and move them, or
just grab wherever you want, I guess.
Oh, let's start in the top left. So we're going to start with an old-time classic. It's a British computer. It's the Sinclair ZX81 Spectrum, I think from about 1983, 1982, something like that. It was a rubber-keyed wonder with, I think, 8K of RAM.
I never had one of these, but a good friend of mine had one of these, and I remember seeing it, and it was cool. I remember you type your games into it out of the back of a mag, and it was slow because it was tape, if I remember correctly. Yeah, okay, Rod's nodding. No?
It did have a tape eventually, but once upon a time it had no storage media at all. You had to write all your programs into it and then just hit run.
Oh my good lordy. What a world we lived in. And do you know what? The design looks cool even now. Like, when you go back and look at it, it's a great design that's aged really well. That would be my view on it, but I think you had one of these.
I borrowed one for a while. I never actually owned one. I was a Commodore guy. We might come to Commodore shortly. But I was certainly familiar with the Spectrum. And I think as a child of the 70s, the Spectrum had that iconic look. It didn't have a big colour palette, so you'd see games developed for the Spectrum, and there'd be, I think, no more than 16 colours, sort of quite pastel, very 8-bit and blocky, but it was a time where developers really stretched the limit of what was possible in a very small amount of RAM. And the Spectrum, certainly led the charge in the United Kingdom because it was cheap and they sold them in Curry's or Dixon's or WH Smith or places like that back in the day. So kids wanted them. They were there. You could learn programming. Lots of today's developers, I think, cut their teeth on Spectrum programming and Commodore programming back in the day. But Clive Sinclair made this thing. They made him a knight at the end of the day because it was such an effective sort of impact on British computing. It's a fairly iconic device, I think.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you. I think it is. So where are we going to put it? It's not in the bottom 3. I'd suggest top 3.
I'd agree with you. I don't think it was ever S tier because of what else was going on in America. So I'm hesitant to put it there. And my eyes are sort of. And if we'd done this in the early 80s, it would be A tier. There's no doubt about it. I think it's better than average, though. I think it stood the test of time. It's a very nostalgic device that the computing wouldn't be the same without it, and I know it influenced American developers as well. So I'm looking at B tier for this one. What do you think?
Yep, I'm on board with that.
B tier for the ZX81 Spectrum. Well done to Specky. Next up, the iconic Apple G3 iBook. So this is the famous toilet seat device. It came with a handle. It ran OS 9 when it came out, but you could upgrade it to OS X or OS 10 when it came along. It had a fantastic 800 by 600 screen. The initial model came with a DVD drive, an Ethernet port. I think it was only a 100 meg Ethernet port, and not wireless. There were no airport for it back in the day. You had to get a card and you had to install that. But the original G3 blue and white iBook, I didn't have the original one. I had I had the special edition one. I think it might have been a G4.
No, you had
remember
a G3.
this pretty well. Yeah, G3 with a silver and white one. First Mac you ever played with, I think, Chris.
Yeah, yours. I never had one of these. It would have been a 100 meg port because Apple used to limit their consumer devices to 100 meg Ethernet, and then their pro devices had gigabit Ethernet.
Yeah, sounds about right. What are your thoughts on the iBook?
So I think we should do this one and then follow up with the one at the end because I put the white iBook in, which is what the first Mac I ever bought. So this is the toilet seat iBook. So very famous, and the last time Apple actually made a colourful laptop, if I remember correctly, other than white, grey, and black, which have been what we've had ever since. Really, well, up until very recently, we've.
There's a sky blue. Come on, there's a sky blue.
So it's got to be in the top 3. Again, I think this is an iconic, very iconic computer of the time. It was not as famous as the iMac, or I think the iMac was really the one that everybody looked at. So where are you thinking? You own this?
Yeah, I'm feeling a bit B tier about this one as well, I'm afraid. I think it was a very important laptop, but it was no PowerBook.
It was no titanium PowerBook. I remember you having that. That was a thing. We were all very envious of that one. I'd agree with B tier.
I don't think we've got PowerBook on our list here, Chris, as I look across it.
I will go and source one.
You're going to rectify that quickly. Yeah, so I'm with you on this. I think it was a good but not great laptop. It obviously wasn't Apple's consumer champion, which was the PowerBook, which had a better name, actually. PowerBook was always a better name than iBook. But
it's better than MacBook Pro. PowerBook was such a good name.
And I think this deserves its B tier. It's certainly not a C tier device. We've got a few of them coming, but yeah, I again, in the fullness of time, at the time we'd reviewed this, it was a decent amount of money. It didn't have wireless internet, but it made a difference for portable computing and Macs and things like that. So I think that's fair. All right, you want to do the white iBook G3 next?
I think so, because this is the successor to the toilet seat iBook, and this was my first Mac that you made me buy.
Made you buy.
Yeah. So I actually had a PC that went wrong, took it back to Curry's here in the UK and swapped it for an iBook. That's where I ended up with that. And I had no money. I was a student and I bought an underpowered, expensive Apple iBook because I wanted to have a Mac.
So this iBook was made out of plastic. It was squarer than the original iBook. They certainly had G4 chips.
No, this started as G3. It got G4 later on.
Okay, it was quite a radical redesign, and like you say, it took some of the whimsy away from the consumer laptop line, I think. It made it look a bit more professional. It came with a D drive, seem to remember. It had airport built in this particular model of it as well.
No airport built in.
Really?
But you could pop the keyboard and pop the card in there, and I think you could upgrade the hard drive on it and the RAM. They were good days, weren't they?
Yeah, you could pop batteries out and update them as well and things like that too.
And this started the sort of look of the rectangular widescreen because it was a 1024 screen, I think. It was wonderful. I had the pulsating sleep light. I had the glow when you put the charger in, which I think yours had. White, not the best colour, but it was fantastic. It was a great device to get me started.
So you think this is wonderful. I'm going to ask you, where do you think this belongs in our tier list then, Chris?
I worry it's going to be another B tier book.
Do you think it's more important than the original iBook?
No. That iBook was so iconic.
So, I mean,
Nobody remembers they called it the Snow iBook because obviously.
So I don't think anybody really remembers this because they really wanted the black one as well. They wanted the black book.
That came later.
It did, I know, but the shape stayed, but the colour came. Yeah. I'm tempted to go C tier, Chris.
I'd agree. C.
You'd agree? Oh, well, that was less controversial than I thought it was going to be. I thought you'd have old feelings.
No, I have fond feelings, but that's just me, isn't it? Because I've got a little bit of history with it.
I think that's fair. This was an interesting device. This was called the OLPC, which stood for One Laptop Per Child. It was a very low resolution black and white. It might even have been e-ink display. I don't remember exactly. With a crank on it. And the idea was they were going to, if a person in the Western world bought one, then they would donate one to a laptop to a child in Africa. It had a crank on the side so you could turn it and charge it up and make use of it. It came with an early variant of mesh networking, so people in the same village could connect them all together even if they had no internet, so they'd be able to send things around amongst the village. And that was about it, really. It kind of never really went anywhere. You could see it as being sort of the progenitor of things like Raspberry Pi and stuff like that, with a built-down low-cost computer designed for a market, with fantastic morals. I think nobody could argue that it was brilliant to be able to hopefully educate people in third world countries about the value of computing and learn a little bit about them, and they were very open source and you can get inside them, but died on the vine really fast, I think it's fair to say.
Never heard of it.
Really?
Yeah, I had no idea what this was, so I enjoyed your summary. So for me, this is bottom half because
I agree with you. I don't think it's an F tier device because of the ethics and the sort of moral and design ethos behind it. I'd imagine having the forethought that you might not have power networking in a community, therefore you're going to put a crank on it, which I know your Playdate console had as well.
I'd forgotten about my Playdate. So where's this going to go?
I feel like it's D tier. I mean, I'd like to give it more because of the ethics behind it. I don't think it was a terrible device because it was a robust thing designed for it. Just nobody really got into it.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. I think the concept, like you say, the ethos, very good, but sadly
execution
did not make a big difference in our world.
D tier. The BBC Model B Micro. So this was an 8-bit machine, actually designed by Acorn, who were a small computer company based in Cambridge here in the UK, who had a design for a computer, and they managed to come up with a partnership with the BBC. Well, it wasn't just the BBC, it was government. Government wanted to increase the computing capabilities of the population of the United Kingdom. They wanted an initiative to do so they gave a bunch of money out there to a computer company that could make something to a cost that could go into schools that the BBC would have educational programs on to show people how to do computing, basically. And Acorn won that contract. They made the BBC Model B, and it was in every school in the country, pretty much, as far as I remember.
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't know where to put this. I think that's right. I remember them. We used to have them on a trolley, and you'd wheel the trolley around and plug it in. That's what my.
And the most famous for the gamer in me, Elite, the space trading game, was designed on the Acorn. Designed on the BBC Model B.
I did not know that.
It was an amazing achievement. Yeah, I'm thinking A tier for this. I got to say, I think it was iconic to British school children. The fact that Elite was the world-changing game that it was. How you get a game of that scale with a procedurally generated universe into 8K RAM with all the spaceships and everything. All right, it was wireframe.
Somebody had ambition.
Yeah, David Braben absolutely had ambition, and I think its lasting impact on certainly us as school children of the United Kingdom and beyond. It's even got the name of our national broadcaster in it, for goodness sake. I think this is an A tier computer.
A tier it is then.
A tier it is for the BBC Micro.
I think you should do the Acorn next, which I put in at the bottom because it's tangentially related.
So you've got Acorn in here, and was this the Archimedes?
Yeah, I think it was like the Acorn Archimedes, and it ran RISC OS. And a good friend of mine had one. His parents had a couple of these, And I remember when they bought one of the, before Acorn didn't make it, you could buy them and you could basically have modular compute. You could just buy another slab and stick it on top and plug it in, and the two would work together and stuff. It was kind of cool at the time. Again, largely in classrooms as well is probably where we would see them here in the UK. Ran the RISC OS, which, like you say, reduced instruction set, which obviously is where we've all ended up with our chips now. I think I'm probably fond on it because my friend had it and we used to play Stunt Car Racer on it and games like that. I don't know how influential it was over time. For me, it's probably a C-tier computer would be where I would put it, but I think that's just because of my history with it.
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting computer. I think it was the first proper 32-bit computer you could get hold of. It was obviously designed by the same team that did the BBC Micro that we're talking about here, Acorn. This is the Archimedes. A couple of interesting games for it, things like Zarch. Stunt Car Racer was originally a Commodore Amiga Atari ST game.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was sort of ports more than anything. Its sort of lasting legacy is more that it and the BBC Micro before it lead to Raspberry Pi. You can draw a direct, line through the Cambridge labs that produced this, and to the ARM chips that we have in our Macs and things now, because this was obviously one of those that was into this. As a computer of itself, I don't think it had very lasting impact. So I'm thinking C, possibly D tier for it
probably is a D. I just put it in just as I was remembering my youth.
Yeah, I think it's fair to put it there, but I think this is a D tier computer.
It's crazy though, isn't it? The instruction set in those chips is what we're all using today, but we had the massive Intel era in the middle, which absolutely squashed it.
Yeah, it did. Let's talk about the Surface RT as we're speaking about ARM chips. So the Surface RT, Microsoft obviously launched their Surface line. This was to bring up their own hardware capabilities and everything that proved that they could make computers just as good as Apple. There was a bunch of Intel ones that were so hungry that the high-end ones almost needed two power adapters. They couldn't run the graphics card and charge the battery at the same time. Even on maximum power with the brick that came with them would run down. So as a response to that, and seeing again what Apple were doing with ARM chips, particularly in phones, they released the Surface RT, which was an ARM-based Surface laptop. Looked like all the other Surface laptops. Even in our tiny little icon here, for those who watch the YouTube video, you can see how incredibly shiny the screen was on these devices. They were touchscreen devices. So this was a hobbled ARM version of Windows. Would have been 10, I think, at the time, possibly 8, which barely ran any Windows software, would just about run Microsoft Word and PowerPoint and things like that. It had the big tile, I think it was Windows 8, because it had the big tile interface to move things around as well. So it was a bad version of a not great product. Surface got better later, but yeah, this wasn't a great move by Microsoft.
It did come with Windows 8 and it was upgradable to 8.1. No, this was, you could kind of see where they're going. Obviously, the Surface line has continued today, and I actually liked my Surface when I had one, but it was a very crippled device. A bit like when you first had a Mac running macOS or Mac, what was it called? 10, macOS 10. I can't think what they used to call it. Yeah, where you, I mean, it did bring the whole convertible thing.
But that was in the Surface lineup before. I think this particular device is absolutely F tier because only about 6 people bought them. I think it's done, isn't it? It was a dreadful computer and belongs in the worst place. Let's stick Windows and we'll do the Alienware Tower. So, that's an interesting noise. So Alienware were a gaming first company. They built high-end computers and laptops and were subsequently bought by Dell. They had such success. But they really leaned into the Alienware thing, and the sort of design of their big PC box was meant to look like an alien's head. It was one of the first companies sort of really champion lighting and things like that. You could change the RGB around it. Definitely a distinctive case, just with a honking big gaming chip and graphics card stuck into it. And that's Alienware. Any thoughts about this?
It was good that it was a brand for gamers. I just didn't like the aesthetic of the whole brand. It was just all very clunky, very plasticky. It just hasn't aged well, but you could see where they were going.
Yeah, I'm feeling what you're thinking about this. So what we're saying is this is probably at best C tier.
I would suggest that's
all right. You'd go lower. Would you go D or F?
I would go a bit lower. I'd probably go a D. Wow. I just think the design of it was awful. They haven't aged well. And some of the cases were ridiculously big and not always needing to be. I just don't think they were well designed, but they were probably ahead of the time by having a gaming brand and actually a true gamers brand now would probably be really good if it was a well-designed gaming brand, because a lot of gamers really, and I've seen it with my son, they want everything to be white and they want this, but they do want nice design, and that wasn't.
Well, I think it was at the time. I think it was pretty iconic. I'm gonna push back against F tier. I think I might let you.
I'm not saying F, but I would go with D.
All right, I think that's slightly controversial. I think you'd upset gamers with that one, but okay. The Alienware Tower slides into D tier. Let's do the original 1984 Macintosh. So this is obviously the computer that didn't start at all for Apple. That was really the Apple II that sort of made them a well-known worldwide brand. But this was the reinvention of the company under Steve Jobs and his little pirate group. An iconic computer brought us to the mainstream, the Windows interface, windowing interface as we know it to this day. Very cute little device. Said hello as it was launched to the public. And I think its brand is unquestionable, really.
And a lot of what was in there is still evident in our Macs today, like the menu bar and where your close button is and all of those things. A lot of the design decisions, I guess, made back then that were carefully thought about live on to this point. Obviously, some have been blurred over the years, over the last 30, 40 years. It's got to be S tier, hasn't it?
I feel like it is S tier. I mean, it wasn't a perfect device. They were still working on the drivers for the floppy disk drive like 2 days before it launched. So it was a very rushed device to get it out to hit a price point. But its impact on the world is unquestionable, I think. That this is what changed Microsoft from being a text company to being one that produced Windows. Without this, there's a clear path to almost all of our modern computing devices. So I'm with you. I think this is an S tier device.
So iconic.
Absolutely iconic. Let's pick something else. So let's do another starting PC. You've put the Pentium PC on here. Is that just generic Pentium PC, or did you have something in mind?
No, I always wanted a Pentium PC. I had a 486, and I did put 90s PC down the bottom, but we might want to skip that because it's very similar. I just thought Pentium was something I always aspired to have and never got, because Intel did such a good job of marketing the Pentium, and it was meant to be this really fast computer, and it was, you could play more. Obviously, when I was younger, I wanted to play a lot of games on it. A few friends had them. I always wanted one, never had one, and so that's why I was putting it there. Like Pentium was really, as the beige box was getting really mainstream, was Pentium. Do you not think? And that's why I thought it was good to put it on there. And Windows 95, then 98, and the Pentium. It was quite a changing time for because you weren't booting into DOS primarily back then.
It is interesting as we look at our icons here, the ocean of beige that is actually in a lot of these devices. And I think the Pentium PC sort of absolutely exemplifies that with the box, the speakers, the monitor, the mouse, the keyboard. Everything was that same beige plastic.
That was kind of the end of beige. Like the Pentium was probably the end of the beige era.
Oh, you look at the Alienware Tower, as we just talked about. I mean, it was doing something different. You've got to give it
True.
that.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah, we're open to moving these around a little bit as well. So I think it was an important chip. It sort of pushed gaming and PCs forward. Intel only really changed it because they couldn't trademark 486, 386, 286. So that's why they changed to a name so that they could trademark Pentium. And obviously then we've gone into Ryzen and dual cores and all sorts of things since then. It was important for its time. I don't think its lasting legacy is much. I mean, I struggle to justify higher than C tier for the Pentium.
No, I'd agree with you. I don't think it's top tier, but just at the time, and it was just when PCs got mainstream, like I said, it's when you started seeing them popping up in all your family's homes, with your mates at school and what have you, for me in the 90s.
Did you foresee this as having the iBook G3 and the Pentium PC next to each other?
No, but they were both quite meaningful devices to me personally, so I guess it makes sense they sit next to each other.
Let's do an IBM device, a specific IBM device next, which is now since been purchased by Lenovo of all things, but this was the IBM ThinkPad, an absolutely iconic laptop. Would have started, probably 486 days, I think, was the original ThinkPad, all the way through Pentiums, right up to the most modern chips these days. You can get Ryzen chips and all that stuff in these now. They were unusual in the fact they had a nubbin thing in the keyboard for moving the pointer around before Apple popularized the trackpad. They then went to a trackpad and a nubbin.
And still do today.
To this day, They're known for their sort of red iconic branding on things and being like tanks. If bits broke, you could replace them easily. Not true so much these days with laptops being glued together. But certainly up to the, I don't know, 9th generation of Pentium chips, I would say, they were still fairly indestructible devices that true road warriors made you. If you were a Windows user on the road, what you wanted was a ThinkPad. They were fantastic devices. I've got one next door. It runs Linux. It's a fantastic device. What do you think of the ThinkPad?
I never had one, but it's so iconic, and it's still got the brand now, which shows you that the lasting name of it, in that people still think ThinkPads are really good and really rave about them. So, I don't know where to put it. We need to make a decision though.
I think it's A or B tier. I think it's such an iconic laptop. If we weren't, dyed-in-the-wool Mac guys as we are, I think the ThinkPad would have been higher on our list here. And certainly from the one I've used, I'm really impressed. I say let's put it in A, but I'm open to moving it down to B, depending on how the rest of this list shapes out.
Well, let's go with A, and we can take it from there, can't we?
All right, I think that's fair. Up next to we're doing quite well with this ranking, I think, so far. This is working. Let's stick with IBM. The original IBM PC.
So iconic in films. I never had one of these. I came in at the 46 era. I don't know. Green screen.
So this is the chip. This is the chip that changed it all, isn't it? Though this is, it's the slightly open chip that Microsoft designed an operating system for that became the basis from all PC-based computing and influenced the Mac. Of course, it did as well. Hell, Macs ran Intel chips for several years there. Let's face it.
True.
This was the really accessible device that your probably granddad at this stage could do his spreadsheets on, turned into a gaming PC, became the behemoth that sort of pushed the Wintel thing right through to where it is today. And you can probably still run some original IBM PC programs on Windows to this day.
So where are we going to put it?
It's too important a device to be any lower than A. I hate to say that, but I think
is it S though.
I don't think it's S. I can't bring myself to put it out. A it is, I think. Yeah, A it is. There you go. Well done, IBM. That's 2 of your devices. You've made it in there. Let's do the Dell XPS laptop.
Ooh. Now this is a bit like the ThinkPad, isn't it? In the iconic name, people, if you're going to buy a Dell, the XPS was the one to get. It was always high quality, usually really well designed, to be fair to Dell. What do you think?
I don't think it's as high as a ThinkPad. I think the branding is for Dell people. So if you were a Dell person through and through, then this is to be the kind of thing you get, because it was the best laptop they made. It was a lovely bit of design. I think for Dell particularly, to put out something that looked pretty was quite unprecedented for them, because they were all good but fairly functional company. I'm sure they'd take that on the chin. To me, this is B, possibly C tier. I think it's a good laptop for Dell, but it never got the brand cachet that a MacBook did or a ThinkPad did or something like that. I think it was important if you were a Dell corporate buyer.
Yep. I think you're right. So it's not A, so it's got to be lower than A. Is it C or B?
It's not A. I'm looking at C and I'm thinking, actually, I think it may belong there.
Yeah, next to the iBook and the Pentium. I'll tell
you. Yeah. A good, solid device that if you had to have a Dell laptop, that's what you'd go for.
Yep, agreed.
The Atari ST, a 16-bit computer, one of the first 2 16-bit computers that you could buy, probably more famous in the United Kingdom, I would suggest, than elsewhere around the world. It had better penetration in the UK than the Commodore Amiga. They looked very similar devices. They ran the same it was the Motorola 86000 chip that these ran, wasn't it? The 16-bit one. The same that ended up in a couple of Macs, actually. So the Amiga and the Atari had that. The Amiga had some different graphics chips and sound chips in it, so it makes it sound a bit better. Atari ST was probably better known for its sound abilities than its sort of graphical ones. But I think a real sort of bedroom hero for lots of people around the UK in the early 90s, late 80s.
My older brother had one. I loved playing on it because it was like so different to my Master System. Remember playing Outrun on it. James Pond, I think, was a game, if I remember correctly. Loads of weird games like that. I had a mouse. I remember you could buy like a floppy disk for it. You just plugged into a normal telly. I think you're right about had MIDI drivers on it and stuff for audio. I like it. Like you say, probably fonder here. Quite a cool design, where you stuff the disc in the back, as you can see in the picture, and funky F keys and things. For me, I'd punt for C tier, I think.
I think that's probably fair. I think it was a good device. The gem graphical environment that it had, its sort of windowing thing.
Yeah, that was quite cool. It was quite cool for the time.
For its time, it was quite cool, but I think its sort of lasting legacy is nothing. I mean, Atari as a company started to die fairly quickly after this. If you think of the successes they had with consoles and things like this, the Atari ST was probably their high point, and after that, they sort of slid away.
Yep.
True of other computing companies from that period as well. So I think for its impact, I'll go with you. I think it's C tier.
Done.
Let's do its brother, actually. If we've talked about it, I need to find it on my list here. I can't find Commodore Amiga. There it is there. So at the same time as the Atari ST, there was the Commodore Business Machines Amiga, which originally came with 512k of RAM. Very similar device to the ST in looks. Very beige again. The F keys were a little less interesting. It also had its floppy drive on the right-hand side. I upgraded mine with a 512k Mac to make it a whole 1024. And latter models could actually come with a hard drive and things as well.
Wow, okay.
It became quite a decent computer. I remember I wrote my first CV to go and do nursing on my Commodore Amiga in the Excellence word processor. It was a good machine. I played an awful lot of games on my Commodore Amiga, though. An awful lot.
Yeah, this has got to be B or A, hasn't it? Like, I don't know what your thoughts are. I've never had one, but even I know how common and popular Amigas were, and like you say, for gaming and to really spark something. So that's where my guess would be, to put it.
I'm with you. I think it's probably an A-tier device. I mean, I don't know if that's just personal nostalgia, but I think of all the developers and everything that came from the Amiga, and the fact it is still more or less pushed to this day. You can go and download a variant of the Amiga OS now that's still a brand that they're sort of pushing around a little bit. It was very sad what happened to Commodore through sort of bad management and over-reliance on a couple of things that killed the company off, because they were one of the behemoths of sort of early computing. So should we go A tier or B tier?
I think A. Even though I didn't have one, I'd say A.
I don't know. I'm looking at the Spectrum, which was probably as influential as this, and I'm more inclined to go B tier.
All right.
Yep.
Go with you.
All right. Let's go with that. The G3 Mac Pro Tower. So this was Apple's next evolution of case design. It's certainly one of the most iconic machines I ever remember seeing. I remember coming to do computer science in Swansea, having my interview with, I'll name drop him, Neil Harmon.
Yep.
And he had one of these parked on his desk, and I was blown away. I'd never seen a tower like this.
And he had the screen to go with it. And this was Apple at peak color, I think, on their pro and consumer devices. They had a great design language, and this was the first non-beige box, I think, from Apple for your pro computer. I always wanted one of these. These were amazing. And he had the screen to go with it. It just looked cracking on like you actually wanted to put this on the desk because it looked so good.
Yeah, and it was a very thoughtful device. It had a latch on the side. You opened it up, and most of the computer hinged on the door, so it was easy to upgrade. It was very well thought out. You had spaces for the drives with the correct blanks behind them. It was a terrific device. And there's a straight line from this to the G4, where they toned down the colours, because business owners only wanted things in grey or steel coloured, it would seem, to the cheese grater Mac Pros that you and I had, even through to the current generation of Mac Pro, which is about to die. I think this is a terrific computer. I think its influence isn't as big outside of the Mac community, but it's a lovely piece of kit.
Yeah, agreed. It is fantastic, and it was nice to have some colour. So where is it going? Is it a B?
I think it's a B. Do you think it's a B?
Yeah, I think it's a B.
It's certainly not any lower than a B.
It's so cool. Such a cool device.
A great machine. A great machine. Let's stick with the Mac Pro, and we'll do what would it have been? Early 2000s? No, early 2010s, 2013 thereabout. Trash can Mac Pro.
I think it was 2013.
So if I said there was a straight line to the cheese grater, this is where it stumbled.
Yeah, this has got to be like D tier.
I wondered if it's F. I think it's lower. I think it might be F tier. It was a machine they designed themselves into. It was an amazing looking thing, small, powerful, but it had such a poor thermal profile that they were never able to upgrade it. So they banged a couple of quite powerful Intel Xeon chips in there, and that couldn't do anything more than that.
This machine was the start of the end of the Mac Pro.
Yeah, I think, and they haven't resurrected it. And the reason they did this was courage, and I think the courage has led them straight to F tier.
But ever since this one, they got this one wrong. Then we had the Intel one, which they largely got right. Then we've had the M chip ones. but this was the start of the end where they just didn't really upgrade it. They didn't do anything with it. And this is the start of the end of the Mac Pro where they got it so wrong. So I would say F. I would go F.
Who'd have thought we'd put a Mac Pro on the same level as a Microsoft product?
So sad.
It's very sad. Let's stick with Pad Macs. Let's do the Power Mac 4400. So this was... Go on.
Yeah, this is over to you.
So this was the epitome of the last generation before Steve Jobs came back of generic, beige, pointless, not well designed, incredibly expensive Macs. So this is where John Scully and his predecessors at Apple actually drove the company. They would have run macOS 7.5, maybe 8.5 if we were lucky, that kind of thing. Not quite the pizza box Mac Pros, but there was Apple had also licensed out clones at this point as well, so you could go and buy Macs from other companies briefly, and they all looked like this, except the clones were cheaper, better, faster, more RAM. This was a dreadful, dreadful computer. I think it was one of the first Macs to come with a CD-ROM drive, but it would have cost a staggering amount of money for when it was released. So, you got any thoughts on the Power Mac 4400?
I don't. I'm sorry. I've probably never used one. A lot of Macs in this era for me were just beige boxes you'd get in the music lab or in the design lab. I just didn't really use one. You're not selling it though, are you?
No, I think it's probably not as bad as a Mac Pro because it was just the evolution of a line. I think it's a D tier Mac.
Yeah, that's the highest I would put it.
That's the highest you would put it as well. There we go. Let's stick with slightly odd choices for things, and let's do the Microsoft Surface Studio. So we've already talked about the Surface RT. The Surface Studio was a large touchscreen Surface with the idea being, and it was an awful lot of money as well. I want to say it was at least £2,500 or something like that, with a very small computer, underpowered computer base on it, where you could actually lie the screen flat and do design work on it if you wanted to. Really interesting concept, really poorly executed, that nobody bought.
Occasionally you see him in lobbies.
Yeah.
I think this was cool. Wish it had gone further. I'd say D tier.
I think D tier is fair for it. It's not absolute garbage like the RT, but it's not a great product at all.
No, it should have been though. It should have been a great product.
Yeah. Let's stick with similar things. And I hesitated before I put this on the list because I don't think it's a computer. The iPad Pro, the original iPad Pro.
Oof. That was a good machine. I bought one of these. I bought the big one. I can't remember what the big one was. It was like 12.9 inch.
12 inches.
For a long time. And it had a home button on it. Loved it. Always wanted to do more on it. And I think that is the theme of the iPad Pro. Love the hardware. Always wanted to do more with it. And you were trying to shoehorn it in to make it do more. Part of me wants to say, like, I think all the iPad hardware is like A, B tier because it's generally really good. The iPad Pro hardware is so good. It's just the software. You just can't do enough with it. That's holding me back. I'd like to say this is a B tier device.
I disagree that it's a B tier. I mean, again, the hardware is great, but a computer is about what you can do with it. And, there's a certain amount of iconic stuff, which is why the Mac sits in S tier, that it's had the original Macintosh, it's had that impact. I don't think the iPad Pro had that impact. If we'd put the original iPad here, I might have been willing to push it up a little bit, but I think this is no higher than C. That's the
Yeah, okay. The original iPad had lots of promise, and we've never quite recognised the promise, have we? Little did we know at that time.
If this was promise, iPad would be an S tier device, but if this was results, it would be an F tier device. So I think we're being generous by giving it C, maybe D. What do you think?
It can't be D.
Can't
be
D.
Put
all right,
the iPad Pro next to the Surface Studio.
That's probably fair. Another amazing Apple computer, the G4 Cube.
So I think this is, like, in desirability, this is S. In usability, this is like F.
So the G4 Cube, for those that don't know, was Apple Go. I suppose it would have been a Mac Mini or possibly a Mac Studio. It was a small cube with heat, with no fan. Heat came in from the bottom, like a chimney that let heat out at the top. You could pair it to Apple's lovely Studio displays at the time, which were sort of a similar color. It came with G4. It had a DVD drive, and the DVDs would pop up like a toaster, a super drive even, not just a DVD drive. A beautiful looking thing that about 6 people bought, and then because the heat transfer in it was so bad, the cases cracked as well, so they were made of this sort of translucent plastic, and they all started to crack. So I think it was an amazing computer, poorly executed, nobody bought, nobody really wanted this at the time, this generation of chips. It was too soon. So the best I could give this is D, and I'm kind of inclined to put it in F, because desirable, yes.
It's got to be D.
Running out of space.
It had the thermal problems of the Mac Pro, but it had the desirability which pulls it out of F into D, would be my view.
All right. Well, I'll put it in D tier, but I'm not sure I'm happy with it. Let's do something else. Let's do the Asus PC, which is what started the netbook craze, if you recall.
Which came and went.
It did come and went. I bought one of these just so I could put macOS on it.
They were cool, and they were so small. But I think laptops ended up just dropping down. Laptops became lighter and thinner and way more powerful.
I don't think we'd have the Chromebook without this. I'm not sure we'd have the MacBook without this. It certainly kickstarted a desire for smaller, more portable laptops.
Yep, no, agreed.
However,
I'd put this at best as C.
Yeah, I gotta say, I think we need to make our D tier category wider because there's quite a lot sort of sloping to the bottom here. Let's put it in C, but I'm willing to move it for now. I'm kind of with you. It belongs in D, but we'll go with C just because what it turned into, I think, was more important than it itself.
It probably helped us get better devices later on.
I mean, I kind of want to put it there, but we'll go with that for the moment.
You've got to pick.
I got to pick the G3 iMac.
Oh, it's got to be S tier.
This is S tier. No hesitation, S tier.
No hesitation. I never had one. Always wanted one. This was Apple reborn, and PCs never imitated the color, the design. Like, this has got to be S tier.
Yeah, and this design lives on to the current iMac, basically. Big screen in front of you, keyboard below, super portable, sounds good, as small as they could make it at the time. My complaint with the current iMac is that the screens aren't big enough, and the G3 and the G4 ones they did, you could get two different sizes of them eventually. Maybe not the original G3s, but no, the ePC I think started as a G3, didn't it? The eMac,
the big white, the eMac, yes. Yeah. And then when they went to the iMac G4, which I had, where you had the dome, you get a 15 and a 17, and I think latterly more, and then the G5. It's got to be S tier. This was the all-in-one. This really kickstarted. It's such an iconic device.
Look at us, two Apple fans putting Apple devices in the S tier thing. Let's keep on that road then and do the 20th anniversary Mac. So this was a LCD screened. It might have been a G3, but I'm not sure. It was certainly a Motorola chip that was in the 20th anniversary Mac.
I've never seen one. Have you ever seen one?
I've never seen one in real life. They were finished in leather. They were high end. They had a TV output as well. About 4 people bought them. They were, again, thermally challenged, underpowered, small screens, incredibly expensive. I think it was the first Mac with an LCD screen. Looked very unique. Not a great Mac.
And possibly why Apple never do anniversary devices and never will, because this just killed it, I think.
I mean, I'm inclined to go F tier with this one, actually, because
I think so.
It was a pointless product.
Yeah.
Okay.
It served no point, like every rubbish.
The PowerBook G4.
Oof. I'm going to say A or S, because this was so up there. So desirable.
I think in this PowerBook G4 is all the previous PowerBooks as well. That there were some amazing Mac laptops. The original proper laptop was a Mac laptop, and it was a PowerBook. And I think the G4 for me epitomized what you wanted in a portable Mac. It was not hot enough that you couldn't carry around with you. It was practical, had lots of ports. That went away for a little bit afterwards. Had a really great
Big screen, black keyboard, looks cool.
And you could do that trick of popping the keyboard off and getting to the underneath and upgrading the RAM as well. It was a great device, and not just because people thought it was cool because I had one in university, but I just think the PowerBook G4 was the epitome of the PowerBook line.
Yep.
A tier.
Easy.
Yep. Done.
Yep.
The M1 Max, and I've clumped them all together because I just think they're all, post the M1. Yep. Hardware's got better, but they've all just been solid, reliable, battery-winning, amazing, good laptops.
If anybody buys a Mac, you just get an M-chip Mac with a bit of RAM, you're sorted. This has got to be A.
I think it's A. It's not S. It's not as iconic. It hasn't moved the design forward in a way that like the original Mac did or the G3 iMac did, or even the PowerBook G4 did. But it's a good, solid, just buy a MacBook Air with an M-chip in it, you're done.
The M-chips have rebooted the Macs. You get amazing battery life. You're buying a great device. So yeah, easy.
The Raspberry Pi, the original Raspberry Pi 1. Single board computer, no monitor. You had to plug in a keyboard, a mouse, power supply. Came with none of that stuff. Had to plug in everything to it. But I think in its own little way, it's changed computing.
B.
Just no hesitation. Why B?
YB, I think it's in the Spectrum line. It's a little bit techy. It's has done some good stuff, but it's a bit niche.
I think that's all entirely fair, and I'm not going to argue with you. I think that's very good. Becoming cornerstones of quite a lot of the home computing world, I think, the Raspberry Pi. It's a good device. We're down to two, Chris. We have the 12-inch MacBook and the Commodore 64. Let's do the Commodore 64. No, let's do the 12-inch MacBook. What are our thoughts on the original one-port, Intel-powered, very hot-running 12-inch MacBook?
I am a sucker for a small device, but this was rubbish. This is F tier. I was actually in a coffee shop the other day, and somebody had one of these with a butterfly keyboard, and the noise of that keyboard is awful. I had to look up. I thought, is the keyboard broken? Have they got a problem? And I realised it was a MacBook One port. It was awful. Just great idea. They could probably make this now with the chips they've got now, and maybe we will get this next year with the iPhone chip going into a MacBook. But this was just a rubbish device. It was overpriced. It was underpowered. This big theme here of F-tier things. It was in a thermal corner, and that keyboard was stupid. And they never got that keyboard right, and they should have abandoned it, and they never did. It was so loud. F.
I actually going to struggle to argue that. I had one of these. I had one of the second.
Did you?
Yeah, I had one of the second generation ones. It was absolute garbage. I had to smash the keyboard to get some things to work on it. It failed. It was super hot at the best of times. It would actually throttle. It's a rare Mac device. You could see throttle, but you'd put it to do something and you could just see all the cores max out and everything. It was an absolutely rubbish device. It didn't even have a particularly good screen. All it had going for it was small and light.
Yeah, and I'd love a small light device. Got an 11-inch iPad. I've got a 13-inch MacBook Air. But this is rubbish. F done.
F tier. A lot of Macs in F tier. Last but not least, the Commodore 64. So a 64K 8-bit computer, dedicated sound chip, graphics chip. You could had ports on the side of it that you could plug in joysticks. You could get a disk drive for it. You could get a printer for it. Taught lots of people to code. Lots of our most important coders are there these days who cut their teeth in the Commodore 64. I think it was an amazing device. It was quite iconic. It had a certain look to it as well. The VIC-20, which came before it, had the same sort of look, but one of those 8-bit early 80s computers that I think made a real dent in the planet at the time.
So my brother had one of these. My brother's quite a bit older than me. I never used it, but I can picture it now with the slightly brown keys and the beigeness of it. So I'm going to be guided by you on this because I just haven't got the affinity or the knowledge of this product.
I think that's probably fair enough. It's so iconic that they've just relaunched the C64 Ultimate Edition, which a bunch of Mac developers have actually got them, and they're playing with them again, and their kids are into them again. I think the lasting impact of the Commodore 64 is way, way bigger than what we realized it was at the time. For a while, it was the biggest selling computer in the world.
Wow, okay. So is this a B tier device?
It's either B or A. It's not as good as S, but I'm inclined to rank it higher than its brother, or its successor, the Amiga, because it was an amazing device, the Amiga. But they'd never been able to make the Amiga unless the 64 had been what it was. So for me, I think it's an A tier device.
Done.
I'm looking at the EPC and I want to move it down to D.
Done.
Doesn't really fit in our grid anymore. Are you happy with this, Chris? How's your rating gone?
For me, I think the iPad Pro should be higher because I love my iPad Pro. But
you want to put iPad Pro B tier?
But the software does hold it back. I kind of do because for me, it's a device I've used for the last 5 years every day for all my meetings. I've only very recently stopped using it as much because I can use a Mac in my current employment. But I still use it a lot when I'm on the road. It's my go-to device because just the cellular connectivity in it. I really like the OS, but I get frustrated I can't code on it. And the coding has gone backwards. There are less coding apps now than there were 5 years ago.
I think it says it all to me that you could do more with a Raspberry Pi 1 than you can do with an iPad Pro.
But the iPad Pro is way more accessible. The Pi, you need.
If I installed a Linux on a Raspberry Pi with a word processor and plugged in the keyboard and plugged it into a screen, anybody could just sit down and get on with it. I don't think it's any more. I think the iPad Pro has ease going for it, but that's also its limitation because we're into the software problems with it. I look at the other things in the B tier, and I don't think it's as good as any of those devices in the B tier.
I love it.
I know.
I just think the software's holding it back. All right, we'll live with it as is.
If we do a tier list of iPads and iOS devices, I'm happy to put it in S tier in that one. But this is computers, and it's not a computer.
It's a very hamstrung computer.
It's a very hamstrung computer.
Done.
There we go. Tier list done. Happy for posterity. We'll make sure we get a copy of that. App of the week. Should we do that? So my app of the week this week, give me a second just to pull up the web page, is Firefly 3. It's, as is many of my things these days, a Docker container that lets you run a personal finance app. This is really quite interesting. It will import stuff from your bank in forms of CSV. You can do budgeting with it. You can do planning with it. It will tell you your full net value. It's just a really slick, well put together, not that hard to run personal finance app. It's got all the bits and pieces in it that you'd want to have there. And very graphically simple, and it will do linkage to things you can import, export. I've just been really impressed with it. I've been using it a lot this week. Firefly 3.
Yeah, I always think I should do something like this to understand my finances better, and then I can barely ignore it and worry about it another year.
Yeah, I think maybe it's a new year, Chris. You should try it. I think it's worth a look. It's fairly simple, and I told you need to get up. Now you've got your Ubiquity stuff up and running. You need to get on with your Docker stuff. So this could be step one.
Docker is next on my list of things tech to play with this year.
Anyway, Firefly 3. Thing of the week.
Thing of the week for me is something I just ordered for myself over Christmas, and weirdly it came really quickly. And I'm going to hold it up. It was about 20 odd quid. It's a Nintendo Switch dock. And I'm showing you the back of it. So you need to provide your own USB-C power, which is fine because we've got loads of them. It's got Ethernet on it, and it's got HDMI on it, and a little button so that you can either have it just show the screen or you can output it to a monitor. And so I bought myself that because I've been loving just noodling around on my Switch a little bit. I've been playing Tetris 99, a bit of Quake, and I've got lots of Pro controllers. So I thought, you know what, a little dock down in my shed would be quite good. The only problem I have at the moment is I don't have a monitor I can plug into it because I've got an Apple Studio display, but I am looking towards a monitor next year once the Asus Pro Arc comes out. So that's why I bought just as a little dock, because the Nintendo docks are so expensive that they make them a bit restrictive to buy for a second TV, I think. And I thought that's about the right amount of money for me. It's not very heavy. It doesn't come with the power brick, but like I say, you've probably got a power brick that this will work with. So that's what I bought for myself. There you go.
Yeah, it was always frustrating to me that you'd had to take some sort of Thunderbolt dock or something you got for your Mac and plug it into the Nintendo, and it wouldn't output to TVs and stuff.
So
like
infuriating. I'm hoping this works. And these guys seem to make lots of different docks, and they do ones for the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally. I don't know how you pronounce that. So I just thought I'd give it a punt, and it's not a huge amount of money.
Fair enough. I like the red and the blue to match the Joy-Cons on that side.
Why
as
has
well.
the Switch 2 not got more colour?
It's a bit dull, isn't it?
They got it so right with the first one with the colourful Joy-Cons. All they had to do was replicate that. So annoyed.
But you know that'll be a later version.
And I'll want to buy the Joy-Cons. That's what's going to happen. And I'll spend more money, and I don't need to spend any more money.
I'm still very happy with my 8-bit Do Ultimate controller for my Switch. It's the best controller I've got for it. It's better than the Pro controller.
Yeah, I do like the Pro. I've got the original Pro controllers, so I've just reused one of those. And I like fair play to Nintendo. They've made everything work. Like, they've not cut off any backwards compatibility. I think that's good.
Fair enough. I think we can call that a show, Chris.
So if you want to get in contact with us, Rod is at g5maniac at mastodon.scot. He's also on Blue Sky, where he's at g5maniac.bsky.social. I am on Mastodon, where I'm at _CGP at mastodon.social. You can watch it on YouTube by going to our website and clicking on YouTube, or you can drop us an email at wakefromsleep@protonmail.com.
Talk to you next week, Chris.